everybody? Welcome to Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch.
Rob Jarrell.
And today we're going to recap last Saturday's HBO World Championship Boxing that had Mike Perez versus Brian Jennings in a heavyweight eliminator for the winner of Wilder Stavern. And then we had Golovkin, Triple G, fighting Daniel Geale, defending his, I think he's got the WBA belt. He's got a belt. He's knocking people out. We all want to see him. So let's recap these fights. Go ahead, Rob.
All right, let's start with the heavyweight eliminator. This was Jennings and Perez was each other's best competition to date. Both of them were undefeated. I'm not going to say little known, but they were trying to, at this point, make a name for themselves, trying to get to that next echelon as a contender, like just the next champion, trying to get to that top spot or as close to that top spot as possible. We had Mike Perez, who came off his last two wins against George Takam, and
that was a draw.
That was a draw. Well, his draw versus Takam, George Takam, and his win, Carlos Takam. Look, Takam. Go back and watch the fight, decent fight, but it was versus Carlos Takam. I'm sorry, he's from like Spain. Yes, he fights out of Spain.
By way of Cameroon.
Yeah, something crazy. And,
international.
And then the win versus Abdul Salamov, which he won emphatically. It was just a pretty sad result in the aftermath. And we had Brian Jennings, who came off his win. I looked up who he beat, and I can't think.
Archer Spilka.
Yes, Spilka.
I had to look that up because I couldn't remember it in the preview video. If you haven't seen the preview video, watch that. Watch the fight, then watch this video.
But it was against Spilka, which was actually his best win to date because that was another undefeated prospect that he fought.
Right.
So, what do we have? Two hungry guys. One has the amateur pedigree. The other one is supremely conditioned, and he has been an athlete before boxing, which he played football out of Philadelphia. So he's a lot more raw than Mike Perez. But like a lot of Cuban fighters, can Mike Perez be assertive and take the fight and just take over the fight? What we got?
Not only that, can he do it in the later rounds?
Right. And what we got was, it wasn't, in my opinion, it wasn't a boring fight when someone pressed the action. Mike Perez obviously had the skill advantage. He had the head movement. He was doing very good counter punching, but he was at his heaviest weight to date from what they said at about 243 pounds against Jennings, who looked a tad bit confused, but again, he's kind of overthinking it. Again, this is his best opponent to date. He only came in and started boxing about the age of 24. And could he assert his supreme conditioning and his kind of being a grinder, trying to wear his opponents down? And what we got was Mike Perez taking an early lead, and then Jennings started to figure him out and started to press the action because Mike Perez, a lot of time, I don't know if he got lazy or he was trying to conserve energy, but he let his hands drop to his sides, which left him open to right hands and some very ugly left hooks.
Yeah. Got tired again. It was we've been seeing that a lot with a lot of these Cuban fighters. It's been a recurring theme over the last month here on the show. Well, in the ring. We've been talking about it on the show. But like Rob said, the skill advantage was very apparent throughout the first 4 rounds. You can see Perez catching Jennings squared up a lot. You can see him turning him. You can see him making him think, making him miss, and making him pay for those misses, unlike another Cuban star who fought a couple weeks ago. Then he got tired. Then he stopped doing all those things. And he allowed Jennings to just walk into him without a jab and just throw power punches. In order to fight that, he just started to try the big boy method, which was just putting his weight on him and walking him across the ring, making Jennings fight him off of him. Didn't work this time.
Well, it worked to a certain extent. Jennings, again, looks like he was overthinking it, But what he did, and his corner gave him great instructions, and he definitely listened, was to create space. Once he tried to walk him back, taking an extra quick step backwards.
Right, and then throwing punches.
And right, especially he landed some really good hooks. And then when his left hand was tied up, he kept working the right hand over the top. I believe he caught him with the uppercut, overhand right combination, but he was able to create space and getting those punches off.
Right.
And this was the first and second fight that Perez had with Adam Booth.
Right, I think it was his first fight with Adam Booth.
First fight with Adam Booth, who was a well-known trainer and manager in England.
Right, and this was kind of a situation where coachability beat ability, because Mike Perez was the better boxer, better fighter, but Brian Jennings was taught and was able to listen to his corner better than Perez did, which had him pull out the victory. Like Rob said, his corner gave him great advice. He went out there and he did what his corner told him to, and it was able to pull out the victory. Now, it was a very close fight. They had, the point deduction. People are going to ask about that. Perez did blatantly foul them, Jennings, and the HBO commentators kind of lost it and got on their soapbox about how referees should referee and stuff like that. And I'll say this: referees don't have to do the things that HBO wants them to do. Like, they want them to pull them aside and say, hey, this is a hard warning. If they break the rules and it's something that they can take a point off, they can take a point. It's in the rule book. They can do it.
And when the
Who cares if they don't like it?
And when the referee is saying something to you, you have to be alert. Just when they come together and fight or break, he's going to give you warnings. It doesn't have to be a hard warning. He's like, don't push the head down. Keep the head. Don't keep the punches up. Right. Don't push them all the way back, or whatever it is. They're getting warnings in the ring, especially if you listen. In the rules, there's no rule for a hard warning as long as they're getting warnings.
Right. The rule says if it's a blatant foul, you can get a point taken away. And at that point, the ref said break. He hit Jennings in the face. Referee chose to take a point. Unfortunately, it did determine the outcome of the fight, which a lot of times people don't want to happen, but you can't blame the ref, because the ref decided to take a point when Mike Perez took it upon himself not to listen to the ref. So it's really not the ref's fault, it's Perez's fault for breaking the rules. So he can be mad all he wants to. If it happened to Jennings, it'd be the same thing. If he broke the rules, he broke the rules. You gotta abide by the code. So he's going home with a loss, and Jennings is gonna wait for the winner of Wilder and Stavern. Moving on to the main event, which we had Gennady Golovkin defending against Daniel Geale, and Golovkin's best opponent to date as well. Well, on paper, Macklin's best opponent as well. As far as what you've seen from the naked eye, we believe that Golovkin is the goods. Now, a lot of people are saying, hey, he really hasn't fought anybody and blah, blah, blah. What's he going to do? A lot of people didn't give Geale a chance. And in this fight, Geale showed a few flashes of success. His hands were surprisingly just a hair faster than Golovkin. He had some good movement, but at the end of the day, Golovkin once again proved that he is the real deal. One, with great ring generalship and cutting off the ring. He did a few subtle parries and slips, even though he did get caught cleanly a lot. But the way he finished the fight was just downright amazing. What do you think, Rob?
I was impressed. While I think while I think the movement and the activity of Geale gave him some trouble because of his chin and his subtle defense, where again he was able to slip some punches. A lot of those punches, some of them were just not clean. They kind of rolled off the elbow, off the shoulder, off the elbow, and he was able to always stay in punching position, where he was getting the most out of each punch. I mean, even the jab sounded like it could have knocked him out.
Yeah.
And when and his movement was very impressive. Like, even though Geale was moving around trying to circle, it was almost as if he was still getting trapped, because what's name wasted no movement following Geale. It was just like, okay, you going left, I'm gonna go left. If you're going right, I'm gonna go right. And that's when Triple G was able to get off.
Yes. And when he got off, there was a clear difference in who hit harder. Like I said, the ending of this fight, it's very rare that you see somebody get hit flush like that with the right hand and still land a knockout blow. It's scary to imagine what would have happened to Geale had he not hit Golovkin at that point, because he knocked enough off of that punch probably not to be knocked out cold. And that speaks to, one, the delivery of Golovkin, because if you look at the slow motion, he threw that punch exactly the way you were supposed to, even though he got nailed in the middle of it. You could see him turning that hip, driving through the foot, and snapping at the shoulder as he landed that punch. And like I said, if he had not gotten hit in the middle of it, and it kind of changed the trajectory of it as well, yeah, that would have been a very scary knockout. That's all I got to say about that. Golovkin's going to return in November, December against who we don't know, whoever decides to step up to the plate. We got a lot of boxing politics going on, keeping these guys from fighting each other, so we just have to wait and see.
That's all I got as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, I mean, that fight was pretty cut and dry, nice and quick. Good work from Golovkin, good effort from Geale, even though he did come up on the short end of it. Thanks for watching this episode, guys. If you liked it, make sure you hit the like button, share it with your friends. If you got something you want to add on to it, you got the comment section below. You can hit us up on Facebook, Capital of Combat, Google Plus, Capital of Combat. And if you have any questions, you can hit us up in either of those mediums or capitalcombat@gmail.com. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.
Russia, this is round one, and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire, I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage, keep thinking that it's a game. I kick crime, hurricane. I told them I don't play, I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.